Hey there, guys. It's Tim with Revved Up Man, and I got a message I want to share with you today, and it's about not carrying your failures around with you. Now, this is something that we all have a tendency to do. We have a tendency to focus on the negative things in our lives rather than the positive things, and so we give more weight and more energy and attention to those things. And a lot of times we don't even realize we're doing this. We kind of start to habitually think about these things, and so they just become sort of a feeling inside of us, like a general anxiety. And if we do this over time, long enough, eventually they become part of our self-conscious, and they become then part of our reality. And this is where we don't want to get into when we are focusing so much on negative things that we just start to see the world through a negative lens and a negative perspective. This is where the weight of our failures and the weight of all of the things that we deem as negative in our lives start to dictate what we do for the future and just our outlook in general. And so this is what I wanted to talk to you about today. This is something that I myself have struggled with over the years. When I was younger and playing sports and being in school, I remember things came very easily to me. And so I kind of got used to that just being the norm. And then once I got out into the real world and had to work for a living, had to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, I realized things started to get a whole lot harder. And being that I was used to kind of easily being good at things, like sports and school and things like that, it was hard for me to accept that I had to approach things differently. And I sort of had already developed a perfectionist mentality. And so when I'd go after something and I wasn't immediately good at it, and I was stumbling and I was struggling in the beginning, I just assumed that this was something that I shouldn't be doing. And so I would give up on it. And after I did that several times, I started to realize, hey, this is actually something you need to learn how to stick and stay with. And by doing that, it made me also realize that I couldn't carry around every single failure that I had at something that was worthwhile doing, because that would just dictate the fact that I was going to not succeed at it. So I had to start focusing on more of the little positive victories. And one way that I started doing this, and this is something that I highly recommend that you do if this is something that you struggle with, is I started journaling. I talk about journaling a lot here with Revved Up Man, and I find it to be so important because a lot of times we get those habitual negative thoughts into our minds, and as I was saying, these can become our realities if we allow them to become habitual enough. But a lot of times, if we take the time to actually write out what's going on in our heads or speak it out, we start to realize how absurd what we're actually thinking and believing is. Because when it's just a thing in your mind and a thought that becomes a feeling, a lot of times we're not even really articulating what's going on in there. And it feels so real to us. We feel the anxiety, we feel the fear, we feel the disappointment and the dejection. But we haven't really taken time to analyze why we feel that way. And by journaling and by speaking out your thoughts and by just getting it out on paper and getting it out in front of you so that you can actually identify it and be like, is that really how things are? Is that really how they need to be? And a lot of times when I write things out that I'm having a fear about, I say, that is absurd. I don't know if you've ever had this moment, but when you actually sometimes speak out of fear, you're like, when I hear it, that actually sounds really stupid. Because, as a rational thinking being, when we actually get a chance to analyze what we're saying, and if we were to hear somebody else say that to us, we realize, hey, maybe there's not so much weight to this, or maybe I should actually start thinking about this a little bit differently. And so by journaling, you get a chance to not only get these sorts of thoughts out of your head and onto paper, but then on top of that, you get a chance to actually change the perspective. Whenever I journal, I usually take the time, if I have something that I'm anxious about or fearful about, and I write it down and I get a chance to, okay, there it is. That's the thing. It might sound stupid when I read it, or it might just be like, okay, there it is. Now I have clarity around it. So first and foremost, it gives you clarity. But then the second thing that I'll do is I'll try to end the journal entry on a positive note, on writing out a new perspective that's a little bit more optimistic. I don't have to go from being down here in fear doldrums down here to super happy, positive rainbow sunshine on the other end. But if I can move it from here to here, then that's an improvement. And when I do that, I feel a little bit of a lift in my spirit, in how I feel about it, and how I go about my day after that. And for that, that to me is a victory. And if I do that every single day, I might have started over here and now I've gone to here. And then the next day, I can move a little bit further forward, a little bit further forward, and then eventually I will be over here, super happy, positive, rainbow land. But you can't get here from here just time warping it over there. You've got to take the time to move your way over there. And if you do that consistently, you'll start to feel a shift and improvement in your attitude. You'll start to realize that you're not focusing so much on your failures anymore. You're not carrying so many of those around anymore, and you're lightening the load every single day. And this is an amazing thing. It feels better. You start to feel the positive shifts. You start to approach every activity in your life with a little bit of a rosier colored lens. And this is going to do so much for what you actually attempt to do, the attitude you bring into every single scenario, and the sort of results you're going to see down the road. And this can go for everything in your life. So I highly recommend and highly encourage you, if you're not already journaling, to start doing this today. Start just writing out your thoughts, no matter what's going on. Start to put some clarity to your life, and then start to inch yourself a little bit further forward every single day to where your outcomes are going to be more positive because the perspective you're bringing into them is more positive. So take that time to do that today, guys. If you liked this message, if you got some value out of this, please do subscribe to my channel on YouTube. I put a message like this together every single week, sometimes more than that. And if you have some comments or some suggestions for things that have helped you out on this journey of looking at things a bit more positive, please share them in the comments section below. Share them on Facebook. I would love to hear your thoughts about this, and any methods that are helping any of my viewers out there with a more positive perspective. I definitely want to share that, and I want to get that information for myself too, because selfishly, I'd like to continue to go forward on this journey, looking even more positive and changing the perspective in greater ways, so that we can focus more on our successes rather than our failures. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.